I've been in dogs since 1991. We breed dogs that we want to train. I was out here in western Nebraska riding Harleys and training dogs. I don't sugarcoat anything, and if you don't like it, tough.
So thank you for tuning in. Welcome to another episode of the Flatlander Kennels podcast with Chris Jobman. We got a really special episode today. We're bringing on a good friend of Chris's and a judge of HRC and also now AKC. We're going to be answering all sorts of questions, asking questions about judge types of questions. I can't wait to get into that. Before we turn it over to Chris and he introduces our guest, though, I want to remind you guys, we have a lot of people signing up over at the Facebook page, a lot of conversations going on over there. So if you're really into this dog stuff, you need to come over to Facebook, the Flatlander Kennels Podcast Facebook group, sign up over there. That's where you can enter your questions to get answered on the air and interact. It's just a really, really cool place. And also don't forget, we now have a video version of this that's coming out on YouTube, the Flatlander Kennels YouTube channel. We've got videos over there of some training stuff, and we're gonna have all the podcasts. So make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel as well. So let's go ahead and kick this over to Chris, and he can bring in our guest and introduce him.
Hi, Elliot. Thanks again. Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening. We got a really special guest tonight. A few of you guessed it, but a really good friend of mine is Dave Captain America Marsteller. And for those of you know, he literally is Captain America. He's ex-military, and he controls the secrets to the world with like a big red button, I think. But anyway, he judges a pile of hunt tests. He judges HRC tests. He judges AKC, dipping into the field trials right now. So I want to wish everybody, Dave Marsteller. Bring it on, Dave.
Thanks, Chris. Elliot, how are you?
I'm doing great. Great to see you again.
Yeah, fresh off a AKC field trial open stake. It was very eye-opening. Don't know if it's my alley or not, but I got it done. We picked a winner.
We're really excited to
I'm
hear
Dave
what's going
Marsteller.
on with you.
Born and raised in a small community in Nebraska.
Hey, slow down. Why are you so nervous? Relax.
It's public speaking 101.
There's two of us on the side. You're not here by yourself. Just relax. It's going to be fine.
Well, in his defense, you did kick it over to him without any setup. You're like, Dave, go.
You're hearing this go? Like, it's about Dave right now. That's why we call him Captain America. So tell us, what tests have you judged the most? What venue?
HRC finished.
That's really surprising to me that you're wearing camo head to toe right now. I'm proud of you. You scream HRC. I'm so proud of you right now. Anyway, Dave, give everybody a little background on what got you in the dog world, how long you've been judging, how many tests you judge, and remember, take a deep breath. You're not standing at the line with cash. Calm down. All
right. So I've been judging since 20 May 2017 was my first started adventure. I'm up to, at the end of this year, I'll be at 73 finished tests, which to some judges is not a lot. But when you take 73 into 7 years, and our climate here is so short that wipes out almost every one of my weekends. So kind of overdid the judging, but I enjoy it.
We all agree you overdid the judging for sure. Your fans agree with that as well.
Yeah.
You are starting to dip into some AKC now, so you've judged 73 finish tests, which to me, I don't care who you are, that's a bunch. But you're now starting to maybe jump into AKC hunt tests, and you are going to judge here at our test for a little bit, and now you're starting to dabble in some field trials. So you're as far as a judge, you're pretty well rounded, right? You judge HRC, now you're going into AKC, but you run all the venues. So I know a lot of judges out there don't run all the venues, but you actually run your own dogs, like which is commendable. I mean, be honest with truthfully, that is commendable. So you're a judge that stood at the line and you appreciate the dog work and you understand what's going on.
Correct. We started running hunt tests. Our HRC started in our region around Cheyenne, Wyoming. We used to be an old NARA club, but about 2006, 2007, we started in our first HRC test. Unfortunately, I was stationed in Korea for the inaugural HRC test. So I had to let the wife run the dogs. I think we just ran started because we didn't know what we were doing yet. But
Deb does a great job. She's been to my seminars, and honestly, she's a little bit better student than you. Not gonna lie, she actually listens a little bit more. So, and she's not quite as nervous.
I've heard that women make very good handlers, so it's a good compliment. Thank you.
And if anybody has looked at our like YouTube stuff, there was a snippet of our seminar last year, the outtakes, I think you called it, Elliot, or something.
Right. My
Dave
favorite.
was there, and he was a very good sport about it. If anybody wants to go back to watch like the outtakes, he runs cash, and he's still running cash in the water blind as we speak. And I felt like, why are you so sweaty? It is the funniest thing either. If you guys go back and watch that, it's hilarious.
I'll make sure and put that up on the Facebook group. That's my personal favorite.
It is unbelievable. I mean, he's such a great sport about it. But
so Dave's actually at your Dave. Hold on, Dave's actually at your house right now, and you guys are recording together. So talk to us about. I know that Dave comes out just to train. Is that why he's there with you now? Is just for training?
Yes, and I make him be here for the podcast.
So how far, Dave? How far do you live away from Flatlander?
If there's no highway patrolman listening, I'm about an hour 20.
An hour 20.
On a good day, when I'm being a respectable individual on the roads, it's about an hour 40.
Okay, about an hour 40. How often do you make it over there to train? I know when I was there, we trained together at least one day, if not more. How often do you go with Chris to do training?
With my current work schedule, I like to make it over at least once every 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. If Chris is open or if he has an opening or availability. So it's one of the best as an amateur that I can do.
Oh, I mean, his setups are really challenging and really, really fun. Can you guys kind of go through what the setup was today, how it went, how Dave's dog did? I've seen Dave's dog. It's a fantastic dog.
Dave has multiple dogs of multiple breeds. He's kind of him and Deb are collectors of animals. They just collect them. Now he won't buy a puppy from me, but he buys them from all over, and he just kind of collects things. So I mean, it makes you feel really good. But I fixed.
How many dogs is he running now? How many dogs are you running, Dave?
He owns a chassis mount and a dog trailer. So Dave, how many Labrador retrievers do you own?
Oh, Chris, I don't know.
There you go.
All right, I'm going to do some quick Nebraska math real quick. So 18 for, we're at 14 Labradors, Chris. 14.
Oh, my gosh.
14.
How many of them are actively, like what is the age discrepancy, and how many of those dogs are currently running hunt tests?
Year and a half to...
No.
10 years.
No, Gypsy's younger than that.
Gypsy's year and...
They're not even a year. Are they barely a year?
They're born. Because Deb picked them up in June.
So, not even a year.
So, well, that was 8 weeks after. So, they're just fresh over a year.
About a year, yeah.
So, I've got a little rocket named Gypsy out of a Jet Hope breeding. So, I'm fortunate to be picked to have one of those pups. But I've got an old 10-year-old hunting dog.
That is a lot of dogs.
Yeah, that's a lot. He's a collector.
And everything in between.
Talk to us about today's setup and what was going on there at Flatland.
Today we're getting ready to run a double master this coming weekend in Colorado. So today what we did was we changed it up for certain dogs, but the gist of it was a triple with an honor and a blind. And first mark out was to left to right around the horn triple. The first mark out was like 50-yard flyer. So we were working on some line manner issues, working on control, but the flyer came out left to right, and let's just say it landed at like 10 o'clock. And then the middle
was bird, land or water? Where were you guys on the property?
It was a land series. It was a
on
land
the checkerboard
series.
On the checkerboard area.
In that checkerboard field. Yep. And so the first mark out was a flyer like at 50 yards. And it landed it was from 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock and go back. It landed about 10 o'clock. And the middle mark was about 170. And it was a winger bird. starting at 12 o'clock and getting thrown to like about 2. And then the right mark was 75 yards, and it was like at 4 o'clock throwing to 3 o'clock. So it was a pretty spread out, nice triple. And what we were working on checking down and the flyer and control, and then the blind was either under the arc of the flyer or right through the old flyer fall, a couple hundred yards out. And it depended on where the flyer landed and where it was at. But most of the dogs did pretty well on it. We had some really good conversations today about stuff and how about things went, what he learned, what he didn't learn, and I'm gonna let Dave talk about that. But one of the things he'll talk about is I keep getting this question on the Facebook page about when your dog doesn't see a mark at the grand, how do you teach those dogs to line that? And how do you teach those dogs to go as scent? And today, Cash, he got a really nice dog named Cash, who I ran last year, and we'll run this year again, the national and stuff. But he didn't see the middle mark because he was infatuated with that flyer, so he never saw the middle mark. And Dave did a really good job of lining him up, and he stepped on that middle mark without even seeing it. But so let Dave talk about the setup today, what he thought, what he learned, and then really talk about how I taught him, or we talked through how to pick up a mark you can't see, because people keep asking me how I teach it, and it's almost impossible to explain how to teach it unless you've seen it. It's almost impossible to explain. It's hard to be. That's why I haven't really answered the question, because it's so hard to answer. But I'll let Dave, talk about, what did you think about the setup today? All that. So what'd you learn? That sort of thing. So take it away, Captain America.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it was a real nice setup for an upcoming master test this weekend, like Chris said. Cash has got some line manner issues, so we were working on that. And when I was working on my reverse healing with him, which Chris did a really nice job with last year, putting that tool in my tool kit to run that dog. He's way more dog than I can handle. I'll be the first to admit. But he keyed in on the flyer, and then we were working on reverse heel at the same time. The middle mark went off, so he missed that middle mark. And then we got him keyed over to that right-hand bird. And then he told me that he was going to go right. So we backed him up a little bit more, and I made him pick up the flyer first. And then he went out and picked up that right-hand mark, came in, and we lined him out towards the holding blind, but I had him way left. And so when I pulled him over right, we're talking probably a minute and a half, 2 minutes on the mat.
At least. There was no mat, but he thinks it was a minute or two. It might have been even longer than that. And I just was standing in the holding blind, had the next dog ready to go, and I could tell he was looking too far left. And what people don't understand that are running hunt tests or training, when you're at the line, that's your time. So however long it takes you to talk the dog and convince the dog into where to go, that's how long it takes. And in training, you think you're up there a long time, and a hunt test, well, you think 30 seconds is 3 minutes. It's really not. So if you really are standing there for 3 minutes trying to line a dog, that's an eternity. And it probably took you 2 minutes, which is a long time.
Every much of it, yep.
Yeah, but you can keep walking through the steps, but he did a really nice job of convincing him where that bird was at, and he stepped on it. There wasn't even a hunt. It was one of the best marks of the day. But Cash is one of those dogs as well that has a little bit older. He's kind of a point and shoot model, and he has a lot of trust. He has a lot of want to. And Cash is one of those. We always talk about, Aiken and I always talk about it. He's a very optimistic dog. So what I mean by that is when you line him up and send him, he thinks he's going to get a bird no matter what, no matter where it is, because he wants to do it so bad. He's super optimistic, and dogs like that are really, really nice to work with because they're point and shoot models. A lot of those point and shoot models come with super high horsepower like Cash has got. And controlling that horsepower and harnessing that horsepower and directing that horsepower is hard to do. So explain how you kind of did that today.
Yeah, so we just opened up the right-hand side a little bit to him, pulled him over, and he locked in on the holding blind, but again, he was still a little bit left. So we tapped a little bit more over on the right and
And we had to, and let me interrupt you, and we had a 15 to 20 mile an hour crossing wind right to left. And that bird is thrown, this is very important, that bird is thrown left to right into the wind. So we had big crosswind pushing them left. Bird was thrown left to right into the wind. And the reason why I set that up today is because we worked really, really hard from this spring to up until now is to holding our line into the wind on the proper side of the gun. So it even made it harder. That big crosswind really affected what was going on today with those dogs on the long memory bird.
Yeah. So if your dog is one that will not hold the wind, then you could have easily lined him up on the right and he still would have ended up on the left with the wind push. Cash is old enough and been through enough training that he'll hold the line through the wind. So once I got him to the right and got the okay from Chris standing behind me, because I am horrible at lining up dogs. It's like putting.
It's bad.
I can't putt, and it just carries over to my ability to mess up a dog on the line. But
you're really
you
good
just
at
don't get their body aligned properly. Is that what you mean, or expand on that?
Yeah, in a hurry,
Okay.
and you think you're there, but you need to step back and check their line or their spine alignment across the top of the head, and that'll help you out a lot. And
That's
so
one
once
thing
we
when I
got
was
him
out
over
there,
there on the right-hand side, he really locked in.
During the seminars that Chris would do is he would had some type of wooden, I don't remember what it was, but it was a stick.
It's a fake wooden gun that I hit handlers with.
Oh, all right. It's okay. It's an AKC fake gun where people would have their dog lined up and they'd think they had their dog and you'd put that gun on the back. I think about that all the time. The spine now from you doing that with the gun. It's like you think you have your dog lined up, but then when you look at the spine, you don't. And you just kept saying wherever their spine's lined up, they were going to go. And you'd watch, and sure enough, then where that spine is lined up, they'd shoot off to.
Yeah, and then today was super important, though, because we had such a big crosswind that it's like shooting a rifle. If you're 1 inch off at 100 yards, at 300 yards, you're not even hitting paper. So today, you're way better off missing the bird to the right, and the dogs just circle back and get into the wind to find it. But if you were anywhere between the bird and the holding blind, if you didn't have a really talented dog and held that line, you had no chance. And those dogs today that would fade with the wind, we were calling, we would stop them, most of them, not all of them, but most 90% of them, if they faded with the wind left, we would stop them, give them a light neck tickle, recall them all the way back, and resend them. And most of the time, that was the best correction we got. Some dogs, I just did a no here, and that's all they needed. So, everybody asking, what's that correction? Depending on the dog. If Cash would have went, so Cash was like, he lined up Cash perfectly. Cash went right to the bird and just stomped on it. He just put his face on it. If Cash would have went left, faded with the wind, because Dave took minutes to tell him where he wanted to go. Cash would look left. He'd go, no, here. Good, right there. He would look left. He would back up, go here. Good, right there. Good, right there. And once he kicked, so now Dave is telling this dog multiple times where he wants him to go. Every time he looked left, he pulled him right. Looked left, pulled him right. So if Cash would have looked straight where he was going to go, but then faded with the wind, his correction would have been blow the whistle, give him a collar correction, recall him all the way back in, and then resend because he told him multiple times where he wanted him to go.
Mm-hmm.
And that's on Cash. I told you where I want you to go. Not, you kept looking left. I said, no, I don't want you to go there. So that correction would have been a really good one for him, and he probably would have done great. So that's a really good communication deal right there.
Right.
But what else did you learn today?
I learned that not every rule in dog training is applicable to the situation at hand. So I had one of my little females, she's a nice little dog, but she struggled with that middle mark.
We're not going to tell Deb which dog it is.
No, we will not mention names, but so we had a little bit of trouble on that middle mark, and I sent her towards the bird, and she got pushed by the wind left, so recalled her, brought her back in, shot her back to the right.
With a light correction.
Very light correction. Sent her back in, and she said, well, he doesn't want me to go left. I headed out towards the middle right, so then she just wanted to go right. So recalled her again,
So yeah,
What
first
we-
time she went, Elliot. Well, first time. So the marks that let's say the mark lands at 12 o'clock. The first time Dave sent her, he went to 10 o'clock. Dave stopped her, gave her a light correction, recalled her all the way back. Resent her again, and she went to 2 o'clock, trying to be a good dog and make that correction. So then what happened?
And we recalled her again and went to send her again, and I got a no-go. So in the amateur Rolodex that went off in my head, I pulled out my transmitter because I was going to go here, Nick, here, because that is the amateur rule for a no-go. But that is not the right correction for this situation because you're dealing with a dog that is already confused, losing confidence in that mark. So transmitter was not used.
She went left, then she went right.
And she's like, what do you want? I don't know what to do.
And then, Dave sent her again. She no-goed. So then Dave instantly grabbed his transmitter, and I said, you better not grab that damn transmitter. I started yelling at him. I said, you better not give her a question. And I said, listen, she's confused. She went left, she went right. She doesn't know where to go. She's confused. I said, do not give her any kind of pressure at all. I said, walk out 5 or 6 feet and steps and resend her. And then what happened?
We threw a bird off.
Yes.
We threw a bird off the left
she
side.
Took off. Dave handled her to the bird, right? And then she came back, and we re-threw that mark, and then he threw a bird off to the side from his side. She picked that up like a little mini double and lined her back up, and she was very successful on the long bird and did a great job on the blind. But if he would have went to that transmitter right away and went to that pressure, nothing would have been accomplished because she was. So when you're training these dogs, especially in a situation like this, and it happened multiple times a day, when you read a dog giving you effort but is confused, you always err on the side of caution and attrition and think your way through it.
Mm-hmm.
If a dog is not giving you effort, typically the correction is pressure because they're not giving effort. Not always time, but typically. But Dave, not to say anything bad about you, which is going to happen a lot tonight. But he reverted to pressure when the dog was giving her effort. Now, if he would have nicked and heeled up and nicked, she would have been so confused she wouldn't have got anything out of that session today. But I think she did a nice job of figuring that out because you went with a smarter version of the training, not the pressure in that situation.
The problem is as an amateur, if you're with an amateur group,
Capital A,
most of the time that correction is going to come out because either we want the dog to succeed and we just don't know when to apply certain rules to certain situations. So that's one of the benefits of being over here and getting to be coached.
And also, if we don't know what to do as amateurs, the collar is an easy go-to. I don't know what to do. Correction.
And that's the last thing you can do. Like I told you, and we had Tiffany up here today, Dave here. We have a big training group, and the last thing you do if you don't know what to do, the last thing you do is add pressure.
Right.
Always err on the side of caution because she was trying, she was just confused, right? And she's tall the middle mark really well, but she just gave it a factor. Plus, we also had the suction on the flyer. The flyer was thrown at the line to the long bird. The flyer was, so it was pinching to the line. That's suction as well. So everything in that dog is mine today with the flyer where it landed and the wind is telling that dog to go left. Everything is telling that dog to go left. And she just she gave into the factors and got sucked into the trap. We made a trap and she got sucked into the trap. Now we've got to teach her to get out of the trap without pressure. She's not cashed. This dog in question, not to be named, but it rhymes with laddie. Anyway, he did a good job of not adding pressure, but if you would have added her pressure, it wouldn't nearly have been a good a session. Not even close.
Mm-hmm.
So she fell into the trap. He taught her how to get out of the trap.
And Chris is right. She's the type of dog that I don't know if I would have got a dog out of the box tomorrow if I would have added pressure at the wrong time there. She's very sensitive to. She's got a really nice conscience, is what I'm trying to say.
She's a nice dog. She just is a very different dog than like Cash and the rule. I mean, train the dog in front of you, not to train the dog that if he's not that. So train the dog, or if he's not right, and if he's not those dogs, so train the dog that you're looking at, not the dog that you have in the next box next to you. So what else did you learn today? Go ahead, Elliot.
Well, I was going to transition, but I mean, if we want to talk more about today, that's perfectly
that's okay.
fine.
No, that's totally fine.
Let's.
Dave, how long have we known each other?
The first time I met you, I think, was in 98.
98.
There was a Pheasants Forever banquet, and the MC was rocking the house, and I come out later to find it was none other than the Chris Jobman.
That's a long time ago, 98. That was in Sydney. I used to be the president of Pheasant Forever chapter in Sydney, Nebraska, for a long time, and that's where I first met him at the Pheasants Forever banquet in Sydney.
So that would have been right at the beginning when you started training, right, Chris? Because you started you started in 91.
I've been around. Yeah, I had my hunting dogs in 91, but I started training professionally in 2000. So that was right before I went professionally. Right before. And I was 26, 27, and I'm 30. I'm like 30 right now, so that's fine.
right. Yeah.
All I know is I went home with an overpriced print that I didn't need. Somebody kept telling me to dig in my wallet.
We all know Dave's got big pockets.
So how long was it until you guys were very familiarly acquainted with each other? How did the progression of your relationship go?
Feels like forever. Last week, it feels like forever.
Has it just been an ongoing? Have you guys been interacting since then, or how's the progression of that been?
We call it stalking, and Dave's really good at it. He's kind of a stalker. He's a stalker. I don't even know how long we've been training together and hanging out. I really don't know. I don't have a clue, but it's been a long time because he's been judging HRC since when?
2017.
2017, and I started running in 2000-ish. So
you knew him well before he was a judge. You knew him when he was just running dogs.
I don't remember him running dogs. I remember him jumping right to judging. I got PTSD on this deal. I really do. I mean,
let's go back into that then, Dave. Why
don't know.
Let's let Dave give us his background in dogs. What got you into dogs? So progress us just through your life of dogs up till you got into judging.
Okay, I came out of Alaska back to Cheyenne, Wyoming in 96. And in 98, my buddy took me pheasant hunting down by Sydney.
And how old were you at that time?
26, I think.
Okay. So mid-20s.
Mid-20s. And
what were you doing in Alaska, out of curiosity?
Catch.
I was deadliest catch working on crab boats. No, I'm just kidding.
Were you? Oh,
I was in the Air Force.
I was going to have about 100 questions.
You're a star.
Here we go.
No, Uncle Sam sent me up there to enjoy 4 years fishing, moose hunting, caribou, black bear, grizzlies. It was a good tour.
So and you got out of the military at that time?
No, I was transferred to Cheyenne, Wyoming.
Okay. All right, move on with your story. So you were transferred with the military to Cheyenne, Wyoming.
Yeah, and the funny thing is I had to go all the way to Alaska to find a wife that would put up with me. So coming out of Alaska with a wife is a trophy in itself because the female to male ratio is a little high.
She is
like 25 to 1 or something.
She's an extremely strong woman. I'm telling you, she is an angel.
She lost a bet.
And still losing.
You bet her, and now she's yours.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, come on. You can't tease that. You've got to tell that story.
It's called chloroform.
All right. So real quick,
those little roofies you slip in a drink.
Roofie.
Here's the story. We worked in the same building, and
she was
I kind of looked
military
at her, and
too?
she smiled at me and said, "Please God, don't talk to me." So I didn't. But no, I had we got a moose down way in the back of the country, and then when we were coming out, we saw a grizzly bear. True story. Saw a grizzly bear coming across the top of the hill. So the guy I was with had a grizzly tag, so we ended up dropping that grizzly. So we had a moose down and we had a grizzly down. And so we went out to the trailhead, and I called my girlfriend at the time, Deb, and I said, hey, can you drive 4 hours after working an 8-hour shift and pick up my moose for me? And I'll be damned if she didn't do it. And I looked at myself and I said, you're dumb if you don't put a ring on that finger. So by the time we got the grizzly out the next day and back to Fairbanks, Alaska, my moose was cut up for me.
She did it. She dressed it.
She dressed it out, and her babysitter and a couple other families got together and got it taken care of.
It's happening to this day. Literally, you can't help us.
So the funny thing is, when we tend to shoot some geese nowadays, all the guys I hunt with are jealous because my outstanding, beautiful, wonderful, amazing wife will clean my geese for me.
Oh wow!
So I struggle.
So how long after that did you take you to ask her to marry you?
About 2 weeks.
It was fast. Not very clean to moose. Well, that's
no, I think
quick.
that was 95, and we got married in late 96.
Okay, so then you were transferred to Wyoming.
Yep, we were transferred to Wyoming.
Dogs. You didn't own labs. You weren't a dog guy at all at this point.
I had dogs growing up, but we didn't have a pet dog at the time. And our first dog was actually a German Shepherd until I went on that pheasant hunt. And then the lady I knew back in my hometown had a litter, backyard bred. Typical story of people's first dog, I think. And so I picked up this pup and picked up the ever famous Richard Walters gun dog, chapter and verse. And he turned out decent. He ended his career probably a seasoned or senior hunter. Didn't know a thing I was doing. And actually picked up Mike Lardy's material at the time. And I opened the cover and I was like, what in the hell does all this mean? So I ended up shelving that program and joined the local retriever club. And they were okay, but you got to find the right group of people.
Now, were you a duck hunter at this time? Were you a waterfowl hunter at this time? Or just
I'm
dogs?
a jump shooter.
Okay. Still
so, main jump shooter. Where I grew up, there is no ducks. There's a creek, Niobrara River, but it's all privately owned, and I didn't know anything about duck hunting at the time.
He still doesn't.
Yeah, still don't.
Dave has hunted with me multiple times at the club, so I'll call him up and he'll come up, and he actually say, hey, no 12 gauge allowed. He ran off about 20 gauge just to come up. But Dave hunts with me quite a bit up here during the season. It's a lot. We have a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Okay.
You got to do what you got to do. But picked up a couple dogs along the way, and then I picked up a started dog. And the funny thing is about the internet media real quick is I ran this dog under two judges, Alan Case and Lee Markowski. And I went 0 for 5 and finished under these judges.
Ooh.
Something about my training style, something about how I was handling this dog, I just couldn't get over the hump.
This was the started dog that you had bought, or which dog
yeah,
was
the started dog I'd bought.
Okay.
I'd worked on him.
What year are we at? Around 2000 at this point?
Yeah, we're at 2000, probably 2009, 2010.
Okay, so that's the first time that you really started getting into hunt test stuff.
Hunt test, yes.
Okay. And
yeah, did a lot of, I'm sorry, I did a lot of pheasant hunting with that first dog and really enjoyed pheasant hunting, but then I found out about NARA, and then our club transferred from NARA over to HRC. Okay. So me and Bo struck out on the HRC trail. And like I said, in today's world, I would have flamed both those judges, blamed them for my shortfalls, etc. But what I did is I just dug Lardy back out. And I'd been around enough of the game that a lot of that stuff that didn't make sense now made sense. Mm-hmm. And so I just restarted with this dog with chapter 1, verse 1, and just built him using a good, solid program. and pretty soon the HRCHs started coming in.
So looking back at it, what do you feel like was lacking either in you or the dog on those first 5 fails? Was it the same thing every time, or just it was everything? What was the issue looking back?
It was probably a collective of things, but marking setups, didn't have a clue about marking setups, didn't understand it. Well, I still don't, if you ask the right people, but
if you ask this guy.
Yeah, if you ask that guy. But
I'm going to mute him in a second, by the way.
It's just
I've got the button.
We'd get through the marking setup, and then I'd lose him on the control of the blind.
Mm-hmm.
And we just finally got it put together. And once we put it together, I've had some pretty good success with the previous dogs that I own.
So at that point in time, you owned 3 dogs. Around the 2010 timeframe, you owned 3?
3.
And the started dog that you bought was the first dog that you had any kind of success with in HRC.
Correct. Yeah, the other 2 I got, like Nara's intermediate title, and it's been so long I forgot what the Nara intermediate title was. I think it might have been intermediate, to be honest with you. But Bo was the first HRCH that I built.
Okay. And were you so you got finished in HRC and then you stopped there? Did you move to AKC? Did you go to the Grand? How far? What was the ending career of that dog?
That dog was an HRCH.
Okay.
And then in the mix of all this was a dog by the name of Buck that came into our lives.
I remember Buck.
And Chris, actually, I had him put a pass on Buck in an AKC test. I had 5 things going on that weekend. So I asked Chris if he was going down to New Mexico, and he said, yeah. And so I threw Buck on his trailer for him. But I worked with Buck as a high school buddy of mine called up and said, hey, I got a dog. Can you teach it to sit? I didn't realize at the time it was the son of the high school friend of mine. So I put Buck through as much as I could, as quick as I could, because it didn't matter. I mean, it was on the house, and we were just in to get this dog out. So I give Buck back, and I find out that it's for his 12-year-old son, and I take him over to the football field back home, and we throw a mark, and the kid didn't know what to do, and I said, just say his name. And when he said Buck and that dog took off, the smile was worth the work. But 2 weeks later, I get a phone call from this guy, and he says, hey, Buck killed some sheep or some 4-H lambs. And I said, are you sure it was Buck? And he was a big old yellow male. And he said, well, we're not for sure, but you know what happens when farmers have dead lambs. I said, well, don't shoot him. I'll talk to the wife. So Deb said, yeah, bring that dog back home.
And the dog collecting
began.
That kind of started it. Now, was your wife into the training as well at this time, or does that come later?
That comes later. At the time. So we ended up getting Buck back, and Buck was number 8.
You have a regular. You're like a pro trainer that does it for free.
Yes, exactly.
You just don't get any money for it.
What do you have against pro trainers? Why would you do that?
So Buck was my first yellow. I preferred the black ones, but we kind of went back and did some things with Buck, and he was one of those dogs that was just rogue. He didn't have any titles, no pedigree, nothing to look at. No started retriever. He was just an old farm backyard bred yellow lab that was angry at the birds, and he would just go find them. So I was able to kind of work him into working with me on blinds and marks. And once I got him from breaking, he turned out to be a really nice dog, and he was my first HRCH master hunter.
Nice.
And
so that at that time you jumped over and went to your first AKC events.
Yep. Did my first AKC master test, scared as hell, intimidated, didn't know what to think about these big bad AKC tests that I hear about. And then I had another dog by the name of Breeze that was coming up next to Buck. And she's like this dog that we ran today that might be named Maddie. So Breeze and Maddie had a lot of same characteristics, and then I had Buck. So he lost his life to cancer at the age of 10, I think. And he was my first 500-point HRCH. So he did a lot of things for me, and he taught me more than I can remember, as evident in my training today.
And tomorrow.
And tomorrow. And the next day.
At what point? So at this point, you're really heavily into hunt testing. It's becoming kind of a part of your life, probably because you're going to a lot of them. You're loving it. At what point did you start thinking about the idea of taking on judging in HRC?
I think I just enjoyed watching good dog work. And I found out that you had to do some hoop jumping, but it wasn't that bad. And I got to travel and see different places, so I thought it'd be a good idea at that time to jump in the ring. And I do it like everybody else does it, to give back to the sport.
Mm-hmm.
If I sit in the chair, somebody else can run their dog. So it's a give and take, and that's what I enjoyed about it.
And that was 2017.
Yeah. And all kidding aside, Dave truly is he loves the sport. He is a student of the game. I enjoy training with him. He gives back so much to the dog games that people have a hard time understanding that when their dog goes out or you get a tough call and they don't pass, and people don't understand that all these judges are giving up their time and away from their families and wives and kids to judge our dogs and people's dogs so they can enjoy the sport where they could be running their own or not even going. And Dave gives back more than he probably should, be quite honest with you.
How often do you run into handlers that want to argue and be aggressive about your decisions? And how often do those type of situations occur?
I would probably just guess probably once a year.
Oh, that's not bad.
No, it's not. And most people understand, but as we will discuss further, it's the handlers that tend to wear rose-colored glasses.
Mommy goggles.
I mean, you can, from the judge's chair, you see so much.
Ooh, you incorporated the name of the episode.
Yeah.
Good job.
Judge's chair.
Good job.
But you really do. And there are so many things that you can pick up on. Judging makes you a better handler, in all honesty. And apparently I'm still not learning that one. But you do see a lot of mistakes, and you learn from other people's mistakes.
Right.
Unfortunately, they don't know they're making them.
Hey guys, we are going to close this episode out with Dave Marsteller right here. We decided to break this into multiple parts because this conversation goes pretty long. So next Wednesday will be part 2 of From the Judge's Chair with Dave Marsteller. Thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to come over to the Facebook group and sign up with us over there, and also the YouTube channel, Flatlander Kennels. Until next time, thank you guys for your support. Spread the message of this podcast to all the dog people you know. We would really appreciate that. We will see you next Wednesday.
I've got to strike this chord with the humble hearts, bearing heavy chains and blue collar scars. Inevitably, they're gonna get their way. If it don't take that fight, take it